And we are live.
Live.
Yeah, we are live now.
Welcome back to the Valiant Few Podcast. Live. I am one of your hosts, Slapshot.
Blackbeard.
Crossfire's here.
Raptor.
And we have a special guest today.
Hey, what's going on, guys? My name is Zombie.
And he will be in for the show today. Today we're doing a little bit of a different episode structure than we normally do. We're doing a new segment called Real Talk, where we go completely unscripted.
And we just talk about whatever we want.
Yeah, and we talk about basically whatever we want. So there's no real structure. There's going to be a lot of back trailing and doing all that type of stuff. And I'm perfectly fine with that.
We literally don't have a script for this.
No, we're pretty much just going to pick a topic
Mad
and just
Lib.
go.
I mean, those really aren't important, you know?
I can't
you
see-
You don't need those.
I can't see our computer screen, but whenever we get some questions in, that
those
can
things,
add
yeah.
to the topics of discussion for sure.
Yeah, this is definitely a time to interact with the audience. Stuff
Yeah,
like that.
I mean, that's what this whole thing is in whatchamacallit,
Interacting with audience.
yeah,
time.
no, an exercise. There we
Yes.
go. It's an exercise in interacting with your audience.
Experiment.
That's for sure.
So,
Wait. Do you want to plug in the stuff?
Oh, yeah, we do
You
have
didn't do that
things
yet.
Oh yeah,
can,
we got to do our
yeah.
plugs. That's for sure. So Discord. I mean, that's the one we're trying to grow.
Yeah.
It's the best way to interact with us directly. We talk to people, or we're getting a community going there. That's for sure. And join the discussion. Discord.wevaliantfew.com.
We also have a website. It's pretty easy to find, www.wevaliantfew.com. And on there, you can find all of our other social media platforms. You can even listen to our newest episodes, too. So, pretty convenient.
And I post memes on our Instagram.
Super convenient.
It's very fun.
Gotta love memes.
Memes are always good.
Thank you,
Good
Raptor,
listen.
for being our amazing CMEO.
MEMEO.
EIO.
EIEIO.
Chief Meme Officer.
All right. So,
We literally talked about like using less filler words, and you just sat there going,
Yeah.
Why?
Well, you
Try-
can't really not.
What do we start? What do you guys want to start on? Is there anything on your mind? Well, we
I
could
got
let's
some.
break the ice with we said we weren't gonna do a news segment for this, but I think there is one thing that we should touch on. today.
What do you think it is?
I want to hear what he's gonna say.
I know exactly what he's gonna
I-
say.
Is it the new the gun law that they?
Yes.
the gun
Ding,
bill
ding,
that they
ding. Yeah.
just-
Ding, ding,
I-
ding.
I-
Right now.
as soon as I seen it, I was like, "Yup, this is gonna be hot."
I just wanted to hear it come out of Raptor's mouth, so Raptor, lead it off.
HR 8 passed the House today, which is a bill that it's called the bipartisan background check bill, which basically is which first of all it wasn't bipartisan. Second of all, it was basically universal background checks, which passed the House today. And I see you looking at me, Slapshot, like you don't know what a universal background check is.
Okay, I know what a universal background
What is
check
it? No,
anyway.
tell me, what is a universal?
On the spot.
It's communism
Welcome to the hot
with
seat.
extra steps.
Basically, more extra steps to the background check to get a firearm, is it not?
Well, it allows the federal government to decide what is on the background check documentation, and also allows the federal government to control who has firearms, in the sense of the same way that you fill out you fill out a state background check and a federal background check whenever you buy a pistol. The same thing now would apply to rifle, and the federal government has complete control over what can be put onto said background check and all those questions and stuff, which allowed if you allowed to.
Open door to corruption.
I mean, that's really what it is at that point, right?
Absolutely,
'Cause,
yeah.
I mean, that's how all things are. It's a gateway into any other more control.
Well, it's just a step. Like you do this, you get the universal background checks. You then do the what's it called? Gun registry off of those universal background checks, as you require them to register the firearm federally, and now you create a gun registry, which makes it very easy for the government to know exactly what firearms you have at any given time, where they're at, and all of that. So then they can just come and take them.
Well, now whenever you're buying a normal rifle now, there is no background check for buying a rifle.
There is a background check. There is a state background
yeah.
check. Yes.
Okay.
Which
So-
people do. Some people think that there aren't background checks already. Every state has background checks whenever you're buying a firearm. It doesn't matter what it is. It's just the stipulations that require that are different between states. One state might require one thing, another state might require the other thing. Same thing with the concealed carry permit. Like in some states, you can just walk in and get your concealed carry permit. Other states, you have to go and pick up you have to do a 24-hour class or training or whatever it is just to have your concealed carry permit. Or some places are even define your need for having a concealed carry.
Yeah, I definitely feel like it should be left stateside because every state's different, right?
Oh yeah, and it goes down. First of all, it goes down to state rights. Second of all, it goes down to the fact that the Second Amendment says shall not be infringed, which is clear to me.
It's very clear. There's not really a back and forth argument.
No, there
there
really shouldn't be. The point of legislature should be to make more freedom rather than take it away.
Well, see, that's where I think a lot of them, or a lot of the government officials don't get it. I think there's some that think what they're doing is helping people. 5% less.
The path.
That's what it really is, though. It's always empty promises.
Oh yeah, constantly.
We'll help you with X, Y, and Z. It's just to get elected, but then
They get elected and then they have an agenda of their own that all they do is try to make good on some of their campaign promises, but at the end of the day they've got their agenda on the back.
All the lobbyists and
Yeah.
stuff, yeah.
And because all the people that helped them get elected, now they have to repay all of them, and it's really just not a very fun circle.
Yeah, and like we were saying, this is clearly a slippery slope to universal the gun registry.
The gun yeah, the gun
registry especially is not.
Because the gun
Serial
registry.
It's
numbers.
not their place to know what I own.
Yeah, absolutely. The federal government and anyone else should not have. First of all, should not be able to control the things that I decide to purchase, whether they're firearms or anything else. Or it's just you can't. That's an invasion of privacy. How much do you want the government involved in your life?
Every waking moment.
You wondering about privacy is not very 2021 of you.
I want the
I'm
government.
all about privacy.
I want the government to NPC me through life.
I don't even know what that is.
NPC.
NPC.
Non-player character.
Yes, I got that.
Yes, I want the government to
Control you?
Yeah.
To control you.
Oh, okay.
Absolutely.
You
I
want
see
to be
what you're
part of the
the system.
program.
That
Yep.
was a weak one.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna fight you.
I'm joking.
Yeah, but that was the big thing I wanted to talk about. Especially on our channel, we talk so much about guns and do so much with guns, that it's suddenly now guns are even harder, or guns are going to have another step in getting them. Because, like you said, it's not so much that they change it to require that you have additional background check steps. Because,
No, because that's not taking away from.
No, I misspoke. I jumped ahead. So it's not that they're trying to add background checks into the more exchanges. Because what they said is now between private sales you have to have a background check. That's
You did before.
that's to say you did
Yeah.
before, and that's what I'm getting at. It's this is a big achievement. It's no, that didn't do anything. What the catch is like you said, that now they can dictate what they put on them. So it has nothing to do with now we can do this thing that everybody else has been doing, and people are cheering for it. It's congratulations, that person just put their other shoe on. There's nothing there, but they unlock the door to tweaking everything else that exists. Because now it's do you have your ex-spouse's consent to buy a firearm?
Yeah, that is crazy. But
There was another piece to that too. They said that if somebody had possession of a firearm that was, say, Raptor had my rifle, he's not allowed to.
you would have to tell the state.
Yeah,
that you were lending it to me.
Yeah.
To use.
That was HR 127.
Yeah, that was
Yep.
127.
No,
Yeah.
that's what that was. I remember we read that live.
We did. That's right.
And then
that was one heck of a bill.
the one thing about HR 8 that I did read at the bottom of it, it did say, basically said this bill cannot be used to create or as a like creator of a gun registry. I don't know how like that was written in the bill. I don't know how much if that means anything.
Alright, well, what I want to know is, like, how long is this going to go before people start,
Forever. People are not.
fighting this?
People aren't
Because-
going to
I
do
mean,
anything.
It's not gonna. No one's actually going to do anything until, quite frankly, it's too late.
Well,
and what
I know,
you'll
because
probably
they did that thing with the whole, pistol braces.
well, it went back and forth, and I called my representatives and stuff
Yeah.
like that.
Okay, do you mean to just read? How long is the bill? Is it super long or not?
Not super long.
Do you mean to just read it? I mean, I have it right here.
I mean, if you want to read the whole thing, go for it.
It
It's
says,
on brand.
let's skip HR 8 to require a background check for every firearm sale. The House of Representatives, all this stuff here.
Let's watch this.
Mr. Thompson of California, Mr. Nadler, oh boy, Mr. Upton, Mrs. Jackson Lee, Mr. Smith, Mrs. Kelly of Illinois, Mr. Fitzpatrick, and Mrs. McBath introduced the following bill, which was referred to the judiciary. It says a bill, big bold letters, to require a background check for every firearms sale. It says be it enacted in the Senate of the House of Representatives of the United States of America, assembled. Section 1, a short title, it says this act may be cited as the Bipartisan Background Check Act of 2021. So it
the
says,
bipartisan.
Section 2,
Meaning
purpose.
you will.
The purpose of this act is to utilize the current background checks process in the United States to ensure individuals prohibited from gun possession are not able to obtain firearms. Oh boy, you notice what I don't notice in there? Anything about a black market.
Well, if I could just stop you right there.
Yeah.
It says it prohibits their ability to own firearms. But if you really think about it, all control really does is impact the people who are already responsible owners.
Yep, that's
Because if you're going to illegally own a firearm, you're going to steal it, or you're going to obtain it through
You're gonna
means
get-
anyway.
and
Hey,
you-
let me just
Doesn't matter
stop you
what
right
kind of
there.
control there is.
Let me just stop you right
that's
there.
not
That's too
group
much
think of you.
logic.
Yeah, well, see, it's that whole axiom that locks keep honest people out.
They
You're-
keep honest people honest. That's what a law is.
I've brought this point up before. It's the same thing with the drug trade.
I mean,
I was just gonna go there.
I mean, there is an entire underground firearms trade.
Oh yeah.
There's no denying it.
Absolutely.
Especially when places like you see that stuff surface more in places that have even more restrictions on their firearms.
Chicago.
Right.
Chicago's is exactly what I was thinking.
And I mean the same
Yeah, I mean,
thing.
all the most violent. Sorry to cut you up, but all the most violent cities are also the ones that have the most control.
No, yeah, and it's very clear, and you can draw so many lines to other things that happen in history, like Prohibition. Prohibition happened. I mean, we talked about what happened in Prohibition, and guess what? People went and made speakeasies and got liquor illegally.
Yeah, because people will find whatever way they can around it. That's just human nature,
Right.
It's like, oh, there's a barrier in my way, I'm gonna go around it.
But what I would much rather advocate for, in the sense of instead of creating these speakeasies and stuff, is everyone resoundingly tell the government, no, we will not comply with whatever you're saying. Simple as
the
that.
power in numbers.
Just tell them straight up, we're not gonna go underground. We're not gonna play around. We're just going to tell you straight up, this law, we're not following it. So just figure it's on you now. Figure it out.
Get your act
The
together.
we the people, you like that adage comes into play.
Did y'all hear of the Constitution?
What's that?
Well,
they're wanting
there
to
was
redo it
another-
anyway.
that requires me
it's
to
outdated,
read.
don't you know?
Oh yeah, it's outdated because it's on parchment.
There
right.
was a video I sent to pretty much everyone here on Instagram of a senator or a representative, basically telling them it was there was some nice music playing in the background. It was super awesome and super cool sounding, and it was basically this senator or representative on the thing saying, "Go ahead and take our guns. We won't comply."
If I pull this up on my phone and put it up to the microphone,
No,
would
don't
it,
do that.
would it sound really bad?
Yeah,
that
please
would
don't.
sound awful.
Please
Alright,
don't
alright,
do
alright,
that
won't do
because
that.
we'll get some super mad distortion.
But another thing
got
is
it.
these bills are very like crafty with their words, because if you notice how it said it was a bipartisan piece of legislature, and if I remember correctly from the vote, I believe there was 8 whole Republicans that signed with it, and every other Republican said no.
And one Democrat said no.
One Democrat also said no.
Yeah,
But because of
let's
the
talk
state,
about.
like, you'd be like, oh yeah, it was bipartisan, and people would read that and they'll be like, oh, both people agree with that. No, it really doesn't. There's 8.
Let's talk about the 8 Republicans that signed it.
Yeah, I mean, seriously though. Moving on here. Section 3, Firearms Transfers. It says, in general, Section 922 of Title 18 United States Code is amended by adding the end the following. Okay. AA1.A says, it shall be unlawful for any person who is not a licensed importer, licensed manufacturer, or a licensed dealer to transfer a firearm to any other person who is not so licensed, unless a licensed importer, licensed manufacturer, or a licensed dealer has first taken possession of the firearm for the purpose of complying with this subsection. It says, upon taking possession of a firearm underneath paragraph A, a licensee shall comply with all requirements of this chapter as if the licensee were transferring the firearm from the inventory of the licensee to the unlicensed transferee.
So
Basically saying you can't transfer a gun
Unless you have an FFL.
unless you have an FFL.
That's just involving
So the
basic
license-
sales.
Does it say
License.
anything about family? Because you can transfer guns within family.
Grandfathering.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, not
Yeah,
even
well-
grandfather. Like you can sell your father a gun
Yeah.
without going through an FFL and anything like that.
And then, what happens with like if you have a family member or something like that passes away, that firearm, how are you going to transfer that if they can't sign?
you don't transfer; it just disappears into the ether.
Yeah, the government says this is mine now, and we're putting it in the bag
Yeah.
of sadness.
That was one thing I was
The
curious
bag of
about
sadness.
AR 127 is whenever they had the general license to own a firearm, and like you said about your grandparents, obviously if they pass away, they're not going to have that. What happens to all of that?
Well,
Is it just
way
get
back
taken by
when
the
they
state?
didn't have that kind of
Like-
legislation in effect at that point. So it's like, what happened? So like, I'm sure people's grandparents have a bunch of unregistered rifles and
Oh,
whatnot,
absolutely. Because
so
you didn't need to get registered whenever they
Yeah.
probably bought them.
Same thing with what was it? I can't remember what
Words.
it was. Words. I don't know. I'm hitting a blank here, boys. Help me out.
I'm currently distracted by Crossfire bring his doggo.
There's a
Into
dog
the-
in the
He's
podcast
a
at the
very
moment.
happy dog.
See the dog cast now?
Oh,
came up.
Rap, did that come through? Did you hear Dogcast?
Yeah, I did.
That did it come through? Nice. Are you still getting mad echo?
Not crazy echo.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out where it's coming from here.
We're having a little bit of audio difficulties and also dog EO difficulties.
Nice.
Ah.
Let's see here. We're gonna take just a second break here to figure out what the audio situation is. Can you take number 4 and turn it down the whole way?
And we'll be right back after these subliminal messages.
Yeah, we'll see. Let's see here. I do not hear any echo anymore. Do you? I don't hear it at all.
Check.
It's this microphone. Is what it is.
It's probably
course it's
because
the
you
one
don't
that
have
you're using.
one of these.
Yeah, that's.
Oh, you have no cover on that one.
That's the pickup range on that microphone's a bit higher than the other ones.
So you get to sound like. Ooh, good one.
Nice. Well, see, I actually know how to talk through this particular microphone. Yeah, let's go ahead and bring it up a bit. Yeah, just keep bringing it up till you can hear me. A little bit more. Little bit more. Yeah, that should be good.
Sounds good to me.
I mean, that sounds a lot better. There's no echo anymore.
Just like that. Problem fixed.
Just like that. Yeah, okay, so, actually, bring it up just a hair bit more so I don't have to be, like, necked into it. Yeah,
just like Shaggy.
There we go.
Neck
That
body.
that sounds. I think that's probably
That
good.
sounds good. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Long neck.
All right. Let's jump here into section C is where we're at, because let me make sure we're at. Yeah, section C is if the transfer of a firearm described in paragraph A will be, or subparagraph A will not be completed for any reason after a licensee takes possession of the firearm, including because of the transfer of the firearm to or receipt of the firearm by the transferee would violate this chapter. The return of the firearm to the transferee by the licensee shall not constitute the transfer of firearm for purposes of this chapter. So it means, like, if you fail it, the gun doesn't just go away.
Yeah, it goes back to the original owner.
Yeah. It says paragraph 1 shall apply to a law enforcement agency or law enforcement officer.
It says it does not. This does not apply.
Shall
to-
not apply, excuse
yeah,
me.
Which is again, like just that line alone, the whole shall not be infringed. What gives law enforcement officers or the military the right to have basically be exempt from these laws?
Yeah, the whole point of the Second Amendment was literally
Rules
to
for
make
the
it
non-
exactly the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for catching that. It says paragraph 2(1) shall not apply to a law enforcement agency or law enforcement officer, armed private security professional, or member of the armed forces. Oh, there you go.
Well, there you go.
Well, it doesn't say active.
Not even that, but it's
I know they're exempting themselves.
yeah.
Yeah.
The people that they want to have
Rules
firearms.
for thee, but not for
Exactly, yeah.
me. Yeah, officer, professional, or member of acting within the course and scope of employment and official duties. Yeah, again. It says a transfer that is a loan or bona fide gift between spouses, between domestic partners, between parents and their children, including step parents and their stepchildren. Oh, that's cool. I didn't know that. Yeah, I mean, that's something, I guess. Between siblings, between aunts or uncles and their nieces and nephews, or between grandparents to their grandchildren. If the transfer has no reason to believe that the transferee will use or intends to use the firearm in a crime or is prohibited from possessing a firearm underneath state or federal law. So, you can still buy your kid a 12 gauge for his birthday and give it to him.
That's such a weird thing to put in, though. Like, you can
The
transfer
whole
it. If they
point-
have no desire to commit a crime, then it's okay. How do you actually, like...
I like how they're like trying to like sugarcoat, like
Like-
use these fancy words and sugarcoat things
Yeah.
to.
I mean, that's
try
the
and
whole
make it sound good.
point.
I mean, that is, like...
You don't know if
the-
someone's gonna commit a crime or not.
That's what I mean.
Oh, hey, Johnny,
And then they can hold
hold
you. So here's the thing. So if you say I gave say me and Crossfire brothers, I give Crossfire a rifle, and I don't personally think at the time that Crossfire has any liability of hurting anyone, but Crossfire goes out and hurts someone. Now they come back to me because I'm the one that transferred
It's your fault.
it to him, and at that point maybe I would be labeled as an accomplice or an accessory to that because I gave him the thing under false false sense of
And make it
security
wonder-
that it would be fine.
If there's a time limit to that, because say like you say you transfer to.
I
a
mean, they
brother,
didn't
and,
talk
like,
about
and,
it.
like 5-10 years go by.
If
and
you
like,
take
hey,
this
at
gun,
that-
don't do anything for 5 years.
Yeah, like what if it's like 10 years later? Are you still going to
Okay,
have
I'm
still
marking,
gonna
are
have-
you
I'm
accountable
marking
now?
my calendar.
And that's the thing.
Seriously.
There's
And
a
it's
lot of open-ended
yeah,
to
that's
that.
up to interpretation, and by the way that it's written, because it doesn't include a start-stop date,
It would just be forever.
it would be assumed to be forever. At least that's how it would be used in law.
Almost certainly.
Yeah, I mean, again, since there's nothing, I mean, if it ever came down to a head, they would push it as much as they can. I mean, that's just that rule of thumb.
This is dumb.
It's very dumb. It's dumb, and it's infringement of my right to taking my rights.
Here in the future, I think
They're taking our guns.
here in the future, I think Panther would be somebody to possibly talk about this.
Yeah, we'll have to see how this shakes out. It says, temporary transfer that is necessary to, there we go. Temporary transfer that is necessary to prevent imminent death or great bodily harm, including harm to self, family member, household member, or others. If the possession by the transferee lasts only as long as immediately necessary to prevent immediate death or great bodily harm, including the harm domestic violence, dating partner violence. Anyway, I've never heard that term used before.
Is that new?
I'm gonna stop you right there, real quick, Crossfire. Do you remember what was it like? This was it the Second Amendment episode, or the part 2 for that episode, where I brought up the statistic of like 100% of 5-year-olds left at home alone with an open like firearm, like.
No, is it 100% of firearms left, or 100% of 5-year-olds that shoot themselves with a firearm die or something like that, right? It was
Some stupid statistic like that.
It was like 90% of the time when you die, you're dead. and the other 10%, you're just as dead.
Oh, I'm gonna kill you till
You're
you
just
die.
on pause.
Yeah.
You're just waiting to respawn.
It's like pause, but there's no play button.
Oh no.
All right. But domestic dating partner violence, sexual assault, stalking, and domestic abuse. I mean, that whole thing, a temporary transfer, I think, is essentially like, you're in trouble.
Grab my gun.
You're in trouble. Take my gun. You're a deputy now.
Yeah.
A deputy with me. Seriously though,
Yeah.
that covers transfer that is approved by the Attorney General under Section 55812 of the Internal Revenue Code of 1986. I don't know what that is. It's blues.
Let's talk about the fact that they're not only are they making the fact that they're making a bill is a problem, because do you know offhand, like, so I was listening to
that's the Firearms Act.
I was listening to T-Rex Arms podcast yesterday, and they were talking about basically just firearm legislature in 2021 and in the past, and they were talking specifically about Tennessee because they're Tennessee based. They said that they have in Tennessee about 2 million lines of legal code.
Million,
and I'm sure that's very similar to other states and our federal government. So, think about it as if it were a program. If you had 2 million lines of code, do you know how jumbled up and how many bugs that would
slow.
create?
A lot of errors.
So, instead of creating new bills and stuff like that, why don't we go, like, maybe there should be some housekeeping done? Because, I mean, we've also talked about the fact that there are still laws sitting in place that, like, you can't tie your giraffe to a telephone pole. Or,
Yeah.
All
It's-
those wacky
Yeah.
laws that
Yeah,
every
we-
state
when
has,
we-
like,
Can't
went
sleep
over-
on a refrigerator
Yeah,
in
it's-
Florida or something like that.
Yeah.
maybe our legislature should go through the laws that are currently already in place and clean those up, rather than just writing more and more and more legislation.
Can you understand the problem with that though? Why they don't do that? Because that requires them to actually work.
Well, I mean, they get paid full-time jobs now, and they should work.
Congress should never be full-time. Change my mind.
It shouldn't be full-time,
have
but they
term
get paid
limits.
as if they're full-time.
I think we should message Crowder and see if we can use change my mind. Oh, change our minds.
Our
We are a group, so it works.
Like hive mind. But anyways, yeah, I completely agree with what you're saying on the whole premise of that we should go through, and I mean honestly, pretty every state should do that, and not even just for firearms in general, for a bunch of
just
stuff,
laws in general.
and go through and there's definitely some that are antiquated, and they should update those or
Take them
remove-
out completely.
I like the I forget where it was, but it was saying like I read it somewhere saying about like for every one law you pass, you should remove 2 old ones
Yeah.
to try to slim things down. I mean, some of course
Yeah, I
are
mean-
necessary. I get that.
I was gonna say you're gonna have those baseline laws that kind of have to stay.
Yeah.
Well, obviously,
There's a
there-
lot
yeah.
of.
What
there
about
could
the
be some cleaning up to be done for sure.
what about the one that removed prohibition?
You can't. That's not a law. That's an amendment.
I mean,
amendment?
you
yeah.
can-
you
cannot-
cannot.
You cannot remove an amendment. You have
No.
to just amend over said amendment.
Over, yeah.
But one
So
thing
they
because
can
they're
pass an
powerful,
amendment again to do it.
well, an amendment becomes you're writing it in stone.
And you're writing it into and amendments to the Constitution
it's in the
are
Constitution
written
itself.
into, like, ad hoc into the Constitution.
Yeah, I mean
like the foundation.
it's like
Like,
legitimate.
yeah.
It's legitimately a part of it.
Yeah, meaning this is the law of the land, and the only way to get rid of an amendment is via another amendment.
You cancel it. Yeah.
You cancel it out with another amendment.
Prohibition was the first act of cancel culture. It got canceled.
It should have never started.
Oh, goody.
That's
This
where
is
things
where
are-
it began.
That's
I mean,
where
I
things went
knew
wrong.
I knew that amendment wasn't a
ground
law.
zero.
I just wanted to bring it up because like I
Well,
just
I
didn't
mean-
think about it at first. Like how
So
you couldn't
amendments are
remove it.
kind of weird because they're not. Are they law?
I mean, technically, they're constitutional law,
Yeah,
which is sometimes,
which is-
I guess,
it's
people
more of a-
ignore it.
It's
more of a-
subjective.
It's more of a right,
almost than a
exactly.
law,
Well,
because-
that's why the first tenor of the Bill of Rights.
exactly.
The right. It's like I have the right to drink alcohol whenever I please. No, you don't. It's
Like the second, if we just went off what the Constitution said, and in regards to the Second Amendment, this
if it,
shall not be infringed
I
is
should
very
be able to
clear.
buy a
Like-
saw on
Here's the
Amazon.
thing, though. Do laws
On
have more
Amazon.
power?
Next day.
They shouldn't.
They shouldn't, but they do.
Well,
if you
they're
think about it,
it's because they're utilized in a way because I mean, honestly, it doesn't make any sense to me because back in the 30s, whenever they passed the firearm, the NFA, they took away specific guns.
Yeah, they
And
named
that-
the guns.
They named guns, and the fact that I mean, the Second Amendment again clearly says shall not be infringed. You take
You
firearms.
take something away,
Take- you-
then it's automatically.
Is that not infringing? Like, look up the definition of infringe and.
Fringe
It means
in
you don't
general.
play
yeah.
with it. You do not play with it at all.
Let's see. What does the national
You don't play with
firearms-
guns?
No, I don't. play with
ATF.gov.
that.
Oh goody.
Joke.
Let's go to non-ATF.
I have no sense of humor.
Yeah,
I
I
know
think that's what I think can get kind of scary now because you have people that follow the Constitution because it's what our country was founded on, and there's more and more people now. They're like, the Constitution is just old.
It's just older, they don't
we have to redo it.
understand.
They didn't understand it back then.
Oh no, they still understand it. They're dead and they still understand it.
No, not. We're saying
And they're saying it needs to
the
be
people
modernized.
Oh.
people our age
I
are.
think the people that say that obviously don't have a grasp on really what the Constitution stands for.
No,
I-
they don't have a grasp.
informed. They have no concept of what it really stands for because really, we have it so easy now. It's so
Yeah,
and that
none
makes
of-
it easy to speculate everything.
100%.
None of them have been to third world countries. I promise you. And if they have, it was on like a field trip with school or whatever.
I really think that
Go
you
to
know
the nice part.
a mandatory like we'll say 2 years doing some sort of service, whether it be aid trips or military.
I don't think necessary mandatory because then we're talking about infringing on like people's freedom to just live. And I
Well,
think
I'm just saying, in some
it would
countries
help
that
them
have
for
that,
sure. Yeah,
it does
So it's
kind of offer.
perspective.
Yeah,
It would give you a
Yeah.
lot more perspective. I can agree with that 100%.
well. I mean, it puts a cost to things because like if people don't have to pay the cost for something, then they don't know how to appreciate it properly.
Yeah,
I don't
and
care who you are. That's
yeah.
just the fact. That's just a fact of reality.
continue and people are nowadays, especially our generation, are so I guess just
outrage.
Terrible.
terrible as a
It's
word.
all
As
about
a word.
attention.
It's about attention. It's
That's
about
all everyone
clout.
seems to care about.
It's about
Everyone wants
TikTok
to-
famous.
TikTok.
I mean, it's why I can't stand social media. I don't use it. like anything.
I am glad we got canceled.
Yeah, honestly,
I think
it
that-
was probably one of the most liberating things that,
My
That's
favorite thing
happened.
is how people can still say that there's no such thing as cancel culture right now.
or it's
At all.
yeah,
Antifa's a myth.
they just deny it. They
Fuck,
they
we're
pretend
so
it doesn't
screwed.
And
exist.
it's not like it's only
They're so
one side. I mean, there are liberals being suppressed as well.
No, well,
It's
yeah,
not it's
for
not
s-
just
for some
conservative.
Oh, I
yeah.
agree. I agree with that, but
But we have
but
what
there
one
is
for
a
vast majority.
serious like one side.
Wait, one-sided
is definitely
weighted.
getting
There definitely
suppressed
is.
over the other.
100%.
I just think you got the more, like if you're talking about the left side of things, you're definitely getting more of the radicals that are getting suppressed because they're just saying some obnoxious things.
Right.
And to me, like that's just, I don't like any of it at all. I think everybody should have the freedom to say whatever the heck they want.
Yeah, we talked
100%.
about this last
like,
podcast.
say whatever you want, and then interpret. Whoever it's directed towards, interpret it how you want, and then move on. Like,
Well, see that goes
be somewhat of a mature adult.
See, that goes back to the whole concept of if you're not in favor of hearing, or if you're not in favor of free speech for somebody who has an opinion that is the polar opposite of you, then you're not actually for free speech.
yeah,
Yeah.
you're not for free speech.
Yeah, like I mean, like you said, I think anybody should be able to say whatever they want, as long as it's not an actual call to action. You know, like there's a difference there. Like I don't
Yeah,
think you should
and
be able,
it
you have the
says
right-
that specifically.
Yeah,
you
it-
can say what you want
General
unless you're
statements.
calling for
yeah, like I don't think you
for
should be able
violence.
to,
Then you get in trouble.
I don't think you should be able to run into a movie theater and yell fire. That's call to
That's just
action.
dumb.
That like I agree with that, but like I think opinion wise, like, and stuff that's not that other type, not
things said in a public forum.
yes, I think you should be able to say whatever you want, even if it's terrible, obscene, because the public forum rejects it.
Yeah, it is.
It has a self-writing nature
It's
to it.
basically
Well,
it's,
yeah, like the general public will take care of that itself. Like,
It's
if
idea
someone says some awful
capitalism.
things, guess what? They're not going to be
It's self-regulating.
Yeah.
exactly.
But when you have stuff like big tech step in, the regulation doesn't become self-regulating; it becomes oligarchically regulated, which you have the ideas of a few governing the ideas of the masses. There's no self-regulation there. It throws everything out of whack. So, like
I
think
mean, it throws it into the
we-
whack of their the whack that they want.
yeah, I just think you should be able to go out and say whatever you want, and then if you're an idiot or if you're saying terrible stuff, that everybody's like, oh well, why would you do that? And
But I also think that you should be able to learn from that, in the sense of, like Dan Crenshaw says in his book, where first of all, people do not have any shame nowadays, in the sense of if they say something, 90% of the time, they're either A, going to ignore it or get canceled. Like their options are ignore it or get canceled.
I mean, that sounds
They just ignore the backlash that they get, and there's no shame and whatever it is. Instead of, like, yes, we say, like, yes, you did something bad, but that doesn't mean, like, I want your career ended and your life ruined.
You said you like an artist that I don't like. Your career's done, buddy.
Or the same thing
It's
with,
like a virtual stoning almost. Like it
it is.
it is.
That's
That's a
what
good way to
I'm
put
trying
it.
to get
Yeah.
at. But
Be
if
careful.
I go out there and I say, "Oh, I don't like Biden," whatever. I don't like his
Oh,
bills
there goes
and whatnot.
monetization
Oh,
out the
God.
window.
I'm
Yeah.
just I'm using it as an example.
Right.
Like,
Blackbeard, I'm
doesn't
sorry.
care.
So we can save our monetization after you're canceled from the show. Sorry.
You're canceled.
But I mean,
we'll say, all right, I don't like Slapshot,
There you go.
and then
Oh, okay.
because he's a manager, So obviously,
I
I'm
hate management.
yeah,
I have.
I just don't like you, and then
Why don't you like me?
I don't
Are you
do
just
well with
jealous that you're my
authority.
bitch and I'm not yours?
you are mine.
Oof.
That's a
All right,
concern.
let's get the tension out
All
here.
right, yes. and then,
What
and,
you're saying-
and then everybody, then all of upper management and the people that are with that kind of want to move somewhere, like the PMs.
Go places,
Yeah, that want to go
do
places in the
things,
company.
have a.
And then they're like, oh, you're just evil. And I'm like, all right, whatever. So I get stoned just because I have an opinion.
well, see, I mean, quite recently, one of the people on The Mandalorian got extra canceled for saying
yeah. Yeah,
we
that
talked
basically
about
that
that, yeah.
same thing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and that's the thing. It's like you're not even like if you're sitting there and you're trying to speak up to be, that voice in the darkness, you're suddenly like uber canceled because now it's
Yeah,
you're
it
not
costs.
thinking group speak.
The thing is it doesn't cost anything socially to say that you're a liberal or to say 90% of liberal things, but it does cost like this. There's a reason why we are semi-anonymous in this. It's the sense that our lives can be endangered by the things that we say, because we think a certain way.
Which is absolutely ridiculous.
Which is wrong. It's absolutely wrong. I shouldn't have to live in fear because of my ideas. Because I live in a certain area and was brought up with certain ideas, and you were brought up in a completely different area with completely different ideas. I'm not trying to get rid of your own ideas. I'm saying that we
You're
should
trying
be
to
able
have yours too.
Yeah, I want mine, and I want to be able to have a conversation without us trying to kill each other or hate each other.
Well,
Want
see,
to know what
good.
I want to know? Why is everyone so afraid to argue anymore, or just debate things?
Because
It
someone's
someone
becomes
stubborn.
outrage, dude. It always becomes something larger than just an argument.
because they don't understand how to deal with something that doesn't go their way. We're dealing with a generation of people who are coming out of the whole starting that stuff at school when oh wow, did your parents say no to you? Oh wow, did your parents spank you because you did something wrong? Oh, that's not allowed.
Absolutely.
That's not allowed.
Daddy
We're
didn't love me.
yeah, there's that. There was like people disciplining their children turned into straight up like now it's considered child abuse.
Yeah.
So what happens is we're seeing the effects of that because people have no idea what authority is.
There's they have no direction.
And I don't mean authority in like like a really archaic sense. Like they don't understand like the
respect.
concept of hierarchies at all. Like if somebody's higher up on whatever it is, even like it's a social chain or something like that, they don't care at all.
Right.
And it's like, oh, you're not my boss. Meanwhile, like they could actually be straight up your boss.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, you're not my boss. But that comes down to the whole like they don't know what no means, literally.
They don't know what no means, and they also don't have any idea how to like manage first of all manage their emotions in
That's big, yeah.
True.
any useful way. Everyone is
Nobody
like
takes constructive criticism. The
yeah,
way
no,
they should.
no, not
everyone's
at
super
all.
stubborn. Nobody takes constructive criticism, and it's
No one's just able to say that they were wrong.
yeah,
At
and
all.
everyone's so sensitive that if you say something that disagrees with their thing, then they
Then
get
you're
upset,
a racist.
and everyone's sad, and no one is good with just taking the brunt. Like facts, that was
Facts
the point
are
I wanted to
opinions
make.
now.
Facts don't matter anymore. Facts have been
No.
turned like any conversation that you have with people that are that disagree with you. A lot of times, if they're not as informed as you are, they'll just start name calling you, and they'll feel wholly justified in that.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
And
because
they'll
society
think
has
they won.
created that area for them to literally be justified,
Well, I mean, if you think about it, a lot of people that are low information, think about if they do get their news, what are they watching?
Whatever,
They're
whatever
gonna-
Facebook
They're going to be
gives
watching
them.
something
They're-
on Facebook. They're going to be watching CNN. They're going to be watching Fox.
You know,
All of those are just super biased.
yeah, but do you know how else a lot of people, like, especially, like, again, like, around our generation get their news? You post it on Twitter.
Twitter.
And guess where else? Instagram. Which you can follow us on our Instagram.
Oh,
there you
it
go.
is.
At We Valiant Few.
Ding.
Damn, that was smooth.
Hell yeah, that was smooth.
Zing.
Keith Stone, always smooth.
All right, but I mean, so just to
Not
break,
sponsored by Keystone.
let's break this train of thought because we've been going on about politics for a while, and
All right, well, I got a question for you guys. Then.
okay.
If money was not an issue, what gun would you buy?
We like guns on this podcast. Don't we?
I'm just trying to.
Yeah.
We'll lead our way into, like,
if money
other
was not
things,
an
but
issue.
Does
and
the
you
money have to go straight just for the gun itself?
Well, we'll say
Everything.
loadout of that said firearm.
Okay.
FG-42.
Wow.
That was pretty quick.
Yeah, that was like you thought about
FG-42.
this. You thought about this hard.
I love that firearm.
No,
I love pretty
they are
much everything
cool.
about that firearm, actually.
So
Maybe not a first gen. There's lots of problems, but an FG-42 for sure. A full auto one, German paratrooper, easy.
Nice.
All right, slapshot.
I gotta think about this for a little bit, man.
How dare you? Come on. Gun guys think about this quite periodically.
David doesn't. The thing is Slapshot doesn't think.
Ouch.
You don't think?
I believe in you.
I can think of a couple cool ones I would have.
No, don't name
Oh,
them
yeah.
because then you're gonna make me biased here.
Like
skip
around.
around.
All right, well, then
Skip
we'll
around the
go
tape.
straight to
To me,
Raptor
it-
then
it
because
comes-
I know I have a lot of faith in Raptor, so I know he's done this already. So let's go straight to you.
It comes down to a lot of things, though. At the same, like, if I just had to pick one firearm that I could just spend all the money.
Think of it this way. Think of since you said money's not an option. Just assume as like if you could just go out and just have a
if
There's
there
a
was-
lot of different.
If there was no laws in place that restricted you, like you had every stamp possible, and you could buy anything, no holds bar.
That would be awesome.
I think one of my favorite firearms ever, and something that I use in a lot of video games, regardless of if it's good or not, is the M14 EBR.
That's a solid choice.
That was actually gonna be one of
It's
mine, too.
nostalgic,
Yeah.
man. It's just timeless.
so good. They're so
It's so
nice.
not like the M14. I've always loved the M14, but and I definitely one of my favorite things is taking old firearms and modernizing them. So like
Tactile.
It's virtually
Tactile.
what that is.
Let me see a tactile Thompson or
Okay,
grease
now,
gun.
With M-Lock.
an
That's what they're doing
Oh,
with
yeah.
like all the
M-Lock
lever
Thompson,
actions now. You see
holy-
lever actions getting with these
M-Lock,
keyboard, you know,
yeah.
M-Log leave. Okay.
Hell yeah.
You know what else would be along the same lines as an M14 but upgraded would be really cool? The G3.
Mm-hmm.
impressive. Going with the old HK.
That's another one on the list.
All right, so if I had to pick a modern firearm, it would probably be the Barrett M82A1.
Okay, that's
I've like never shot one. They always fascinate me.
It's a
I
classic.
just think it would be really cool to own one.
I've
'cause
shot
I,
one.
okay, but like how many people? Everyone around the table, how many people in your personal network do you know that owns one?
one.
2.
It's pretty rare, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah,
sir.
they're expensive as
I mean,
hell.
they're 10 grand. Aren't
Yeah.
No more than that now.
And then you can get
Probably,
like, you
right.
can get like a bolt action version for like 6-7 grand. But
I know you can get a break open single shot.
You
It's
can
like
get a-
So that exists.
For like
a,
$1,500.
a Serbo.
Yeah.
Or Serbu, they're like 1875.
Yeah.
Remington makes
Demolition Ranch has one of those.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's where I've seen that.
What the break action?
Yeah.
He
Yeah,
has
break
the
open.
he has the break open Serbu and he has the semi Serbu, which is the BF 50A or something like
Yeah.
that.
God, I don't know.
It's like it's a Barrett I don't know what you call it, like a Barrett analogous like
it's almost-
whatever. It's
it's a variant.
it's like a separate thing for a Barrett, but it costs like $3,500.
I'm really just waiting for him to hit 10 million subscribers so that he can reveal his entire armory.
I don't even.
I'm curious how many of those are actually his.
I don't know.
Because I mean, it seems like a channel like that and how many things he runs through. I don't know.
I mean, people give him guns,
That's what I mean. Yeah, like
Between
this is like a
sponsors and
sponsor me, please.
but quite honestly, like I honestly don't understand the fascination with 50 cal all that much. Like I get it in the sense that everyone's just like, oh, it's the biggest like personal round that you can carry.
It's the round. I don't think it's so much the firearm. It's the round.
But
Just,
like,
like,
it's
every single-
unwieldy and it has very specific application.
Yeah, I know, it's just cool.
That is a Thompson.
Yeah.
yeah, but
What is it?
you can't
is a
tell me if
Thompson.
you like you took it hunting and you missed, but you still went 6 inches by it. It would suck the eyeballs from its body. Like you cannot tell me that wouldn't be cool. Like
I'm not
having that
playing-
kind of power.
if I'm hunting-
playing God.
If I'm hunting, at least for me, whenever
you
I
wouldn't
hunt,
wanna use something that powerful.
yeah,
There's
I wouldn't,
actually
I
a
wouldn't
YouTube
use
video.
that.
Where did the deer go?
I also
Gone.
There's actually a YouTube video of a guy shooting a deer with a 50 cal.
Oh
That's
man.
wasteful.
I mean, okay, no.
the bullet turns it into two pieces.
No, it didn't. The bullet went straight clean through.
I don't believe
It didn't stop.
That seems unlikely.
You can find it. It's
Do
on
you know
YouTube.
how the velocity of a 50
There's so
cal, the
much
size,
foot
the
pounds on
mass?
Just find the YouTube video.
If
We'll find
anything,
it.
maybe it didn't cut it in
We
half, but
can't
it
really do it
definitely
because of the
blew
string.
out.
I
the
know,
whole
I know.
Thing.
I'm just surprised it didn't like ruin like the meat and like the front shoulder.
Yeah,
or
because
anything.
there's
That's a lot of
plenty of real world combat footage of people getting hit with 50 cals, and they literally get cut in half.
Thermodynamics is you cannot sit there and deny thermodynamics.
I mean, I don't know what round he used or for like.
All I'm saying, best round is 3-3 at Lapua. Love that round.
All right, so then we'll move right into zombie, and then
I'd say
you
top
know.
3 on that.
All right, what weapon are you?
Mark 18, shot in 3-3 at Lapua, semi-auto.
Okay.
All right.
I mean,
Going heavy.
A Mark 18 was
Is it-
338.
I say Mark
Lapua.
18s,
Wait,
I thought
Mark
were
18 was a
5.56.
5.56 gun.
They're in Lapua.
I mean, I
They're-
have
they're,
them.
they're even in Tarkov.
I know they're in Tarkov, or I know the 338 Lapua is in Tarkov. I didn't
Yeah.
know that
Mark 18.
it's a Mark 18. I wonder what Tarkov is considering
Is-
a Mark 18.
It is Mjolnir 338.
Yeah.
Like, I know
Sword by
they
Sword International.
I know they have like AR variants with like 300 Win Mag and a whole bunch of other like large.
But 338 Lapua is like that's not like
I know. It's
a
a
rifle
50
round.
Beowulf. That's like a
Okay.
that's a full power
it's a-
cartridge.
Yeah.
Okay, that I think that's pretty freaking nice.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Look
Why does Tarkov call that a Mark 18?
It's literally Mark 18 Mod 1
No,
Mjolnir.
maybe it's just literally swords designation of it.
Yeah.
that's pretty cool.
Because a Mark
actually.
18 like Block 2 is what I'm thinking of, which is
A 5.56.
5.56
Yeah.
with Daniel Defense rest rails and 10.3 inch barrel, meant to be suppressed.
All right, so since after Blackbeard said zombie and asked about his gun, it made me start thinking about zombies. So, zombie apocalypse breaks out. We're gonna go around the table one at a time.
God.
What is your first move? You're starting out at your dwelling. What are you doing? As soon as you hear about this, boom. What's on your mind? Where are you going? What are you doing? Rapper, you start.
Where am I going? I mean, are there zombies around me yet?
No.
Or is I just saw this on the news?
We're-
Just saw this on the
we're in,
news.
like,
Starting
period.
starting in an urban area.
I know what
I already
my
got- I
first
already
move
got
is.
my
And it's
action
probably the
plan.
same as yours.
I would probably hit stores,
EPAP,
EPAP.
Emergency Action Preparedness Plan.
Oh yeah, do that, but
That counts as the first thing you're like.
But,
Boom.
I mean, you also have to think, because if it hasn't already happened, I mean, I guess either way, grouping up, but you have absolutely no idea.
I mean,
How-
that's the first thing is you get
You
get
wanna
your
group
team
up.
on the move, and then you go do that type of stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you-
Like literally
before
on,
You
hit.
start networking.
on the move, you literally like
100%.
call. It's like, hey,
Well, you should have been
everything's on
networking
fire.
prior.
Well, I'm
Yeah.
saying, in the event,
The
you
world's
sit there,
broken and war.
you get a hold of everybody that you can. You find a rally point, and then you load up from there, and then move to it.
Congratulations, that's exactly what an EPAP basically says.
Yeah, we have one printed out for us.
It's like, oh boy, stuff's hitting the fan, guys.
Okay, but individually though, like if we are not grouped up together,
Why would we not be grouped up together?
like if we cannot be,
Why could we not?
I have a vehicle.
Me too.
We all
What are these
That's
stipulations
Alright.
that are making it impossible for me to get with the boys?
well, I just thought of this off the top of my head.
Listen,
Alright, you
you
are
guys-
breaking the argument down like piece
I
by
will
piece.
destroy
I feel
your
brittle
argument.
right now.
Listen, there's two options here. You either have the boys or you have self-destruction and nothing else.
Or suicide.
What do you think
That's
self-destruction
not an
is?
option.
self-destruction, bud.
Suicide's not an option.
I mean, self-destruction sounds kind of violent. Like,
So now,
like you're swallowing a whole grenade.
Oh,
kind of
destruction.
violent.
So, if you're gonna go with if you can't group up and you are on your own, I mean, the first thing you have to get is water. Clearly, that's more important than food.
Why get water when you can have a life straw?
Suck the lake.
Man,
I mean,
now he's
fine.
Now he's getting his revenge and picking apart.
I
everybody
mean, your
else.
best
Yeah.
move. It's wholly dependent on where you live and around. Like,
Life shot would be
we-
pretty good for us, actually.
I think
Yeah,
I
I like-
have
yeah, life
the
shots are very
hardest. You know,
Oh, yeah,
I
he
guess.
he just pulls
Just
one
out
up
of
from
that
behind him. Okay.
Easy.
I think I have the hardest choices because of where I live.
yeah,
You
you'd
know,
have to
rural
extract.
area.
Oh, okay, yeah.
You know, a wise individual once said that the hardest choices require the strongest wills.
Bring it on. I guess I'll take
Okay,
one then.
Thanos, calm down. No, but I want to. So, I mean, you guys want to talk about your zombie things?
I mean, I honestly, like, I just pretty much said what I would
Yeah,
do.
If you cannot group up with the
Alright,
boys,
if I can't group up with the boys, then I'm obviously gonna go to a more desolate area after I gather my things that I need to survive,
Acquire resources.
and then
Acquire
like
currency.
along my trek, I would probably head north somewhere in the woods where there's less population, because less population means less threat to deal with.
and then start punching wood.
Yeah, I would punch wood, and just
You gotta get yourself
Dude.
one of those survival axes.
Sounded just like
I
it.
would. Well, I have
That
one.
have like
I,
everything in it.
I have one, and
Oh,
then
there you
you
go.
know I
This
would
has a microwave in it.
I would just move to an area where it's in the middle of the woods where it's so desolate that I wouldn't have the threat.
Desolate.
Hope we don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, like it's just common sense. Less
I know a place
less
for that.
Population
less
density.
threat.
Yeah.
100%.
So,
I
so
know a
what?
place for that.
So what happens if everybody else thinks the same thing and suddenly the woods become
The
ultra
population
populated
density.
area?
So here's the thing. So like
Oh,
in my example of where I could go, that's very desolate. Is like almost an hour,
Remote, I think,
2
is the
hours
word
away.
for it.
It's
You guys are
away.
It's up a highway
You're
or
using
two.
desolate.
It's a way.
So like
It is
You can't-
remote.
you can't take the highway to get
The
there.
word that you're looking for is remote, not desolate.
Desolate.
Desolate is like you're.
Desolate is like nothing is there in terms of like anything.
I'm
like
hiding in
dead.
the middle of the desert.
Desolate
Desert,
desert.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like, oh shit.
He
Whereas-
sold.
Well,
Blackbeard
excuse
sold me on the
me.
word, man.
I'm moving to the Sahara.
It says Gullible on the ceiling, buddy. Get some vocabulary. Read a book or two.
Actually, what if you
Listen,
do just
I'm
go somewhere
tired,
where it's
right?
like super hot or super cold?
I would
I would probably take the cold.
I would construct a massive mighty fortress.
Because like
I played 7 Days to Die enough to know
True.
how to.
But like, what if you just like migrate all the way to northern Canada where it is just ice everywhere?
And
So we're just
God,
pulling a
dude.
Christian
Well,
McCandless
think
now?
about it though. I mean, would the zombies would they not just like start freezing up?
You get some zomsicles there.
Does anyone know who Christian McCandless is?
He's a
No.
Christian.
He
Maybe it was.
I think he
Why?
literally took a plane to Alaska to live in the land on his own, and he froze to death out in the wilderness.
I know somebody that did that for 7 years, but they said drop me off in Alaska, come back in 7 years, and they came back and he was still alive.
That's just
Come back in
knowledge.
7 years. They
Wilderness,
actually.
know,
That's impressive.
you
Oh.
know, knowing the wilderness.
Hmm.
I don't know if you did or not.
That's
well,
crazy.
yeah, people are pretty amazing. It's like, how did you stay alive? It's like I cut down a tree with my bare hands,
Multiple
and
times.
then I killed a bear with my bare hands.
And used his bare hands to kill other people.
We're going down roads nobody's ever meant to go down.
But no, there's a book about. I forget who wrote it, what it's called. Not very helpful. Sorry, but
Is it called Hatchet?
I don't think so.
Into the wild.
I think that's actually it. Into the Wild. That might actually be it. But it's about this guy that goes up into Alaska and tries to live off the land. He lived in an abandoned bus for forever, and he ended up freezing to death. He killed a moose, I think it was, or something up there, some large animal up there, but he couldn't do anything with it because he couldn't skin it all. A lot of the meat went to waste. So like,
You ever read Lord of the Flies?
Oh yeah,
I do remember that one.
that was a good book.
That was pretty interesting.
It's like, oh boy, the
Bunch
kids
of
are
Kids Battle Royale.
The
Oh.
original Fortnite.
That's when society went downhill.
I stopped reading them. Oh yes, it was all Fortnite's fault.
No, I think the world went really downhill whenever we had to read. Was it The Brave New World or something like that?
I don't
I
think
never
I
No,
had to
you're
read that.
supposed to read those things. It's because they're marketed to you, at least in school, at least whenever I read them, as these are dystopian futures. Brave
Right.
New World, they're fed like
Drugs,
drugs
I
to
believe, yeah.
basically not give a shit about anything.
It's like that game where they're what's it? We Happy Few?
Yeah.
Yeah,
We
it's-
Valiant Few?
No,
Yeah.
we happy you.
You know what else was a dystopian novel at one point?
1984.
That's what I was gonna say.
I was actually here's a
so
crazy story about 1984. I was talking to my grandmother about how she read 1984 in school, and like whenever she was in school, like in the 50s and stuff like that. Because 1984 wasn't written in 1984.
No,
1984 was like
Well,
written
1947, I think.
so,
Right?
yeah,
something like that.
as a future book.
Oh, okay.
So it's been out for a long time, and I was just going back and forth, specifically talking about our podcast and like a lot of stuff that's going on, like with the world and how you like. It's it's very unsettling whenever you're looking at this dystopian future written about in the 40s, and
It's
a lot
like-
of you
it's
can draw
like-
parallels to a lot of what's going on today.
It's like scary accurate.
Give some examples, please.
Give some examples. Newspeak and
Here, let me just
Big
look.
Brother with the
19
incredibly. I mean, just read your privacy policies of any app that you use.
Here, let me
Who
see.
does that?
Would you
Well,
like?
you should
You mean
because
those things everyone agrees to without reading.
Okay,
Yes.
I'll just read you the overview from 1984.
Please.
It says 1984 is a dystopian novella. Okay, a dystopian novel by George Orwell published in 1949, which follows the life of Winston Smith, a low-ranking member of quote-unquote the party, who is frustrated by the omnipotent eyes of the party and its ominous ruler, Big Brother. It says Big Brother controls every aspect of people's lives. It has invented the language Newspeak in an attempt to completely eliminate political rebellion, created thought crimes to stop people even thinking
you
of
think-
things
yeah.
considered rebellious. The party controls what people read, speak, say, and do, with the threat that if they disobey, they will be sent to a dreaded room 101 as a looming punishment, which is basically
Is
gulag.
that Twitter?
Or is
you
that
in real life.
Yeah,
So that's real life.
there's still more.
So North Korea.
Orwell effectively explores the themes of mass media control, government surveillance, totalitarianism, and how a dictator can manipulate and control history, thoughts, and lives in such a way that no one can escape it. The protagonist, Winston Smith, begins a subtle rebellion against the party by keeping a diary of his secret thoughts, which is a deadly thought crime. Oh, man. With his lover, Julia. He begins a foreordained fight, whatever. English words. Fight for freedom and justice in a world where no one else appears to see or dislike the opposition the protagonist opposes. Perhaps the most powerful, effective, and frightening notion of 1984 is the complete control of an entire nation under the totalitarian state is perfectly possible. If the world fell under the control of one or even multiple dictators, the future could easily become twisted, cruel world where every movement, word, breath is scrutinized by an omnipotent, it says omnipotent twice, omnipotent, omnipresent power that no one can stop or even oppose without the fear of death. Orwell's novel is a warning for the human race that it highlights the importance of resisting mass control and oppression.
Man,
This guy's a fucking genius.
He invented the word Big Brother by this.
Yes, that's where Big Brother.
Oh, that's where it came from.
Yep.
Yeah,
Huh.
this book.
This sounds
You
so
learn-
familiar.
You learn something new
Yeah.
every day.
It was funny. We never even mentioned about the changing of history. Isn't what was going on about they wanted to change how America was founded? Was in 1776.
No,
There was that project.
1617 or 1619. Yeah,
1619.
What's that
project,
about?
whatever it was.
it's about
The
the United
true
States
founding
was
of America.
founded on slavery in 1619. I don't know any more than that.
I don't
but-
remember.
Is that Roanoke?
something like that.
When did this come to fruition?
Last year.
It's been going
maybe it
around.
was like
It's like a project going around for
It's
a
a
while.
couple years old. I know that.
Let's see, the Roanoke Collie.
Just
Collie.
wait.
Literally just
It'll
look
make
at the
its way-
1619 project.
Yeah.
It'll make its way into a biased history textbook. and
It's
then
already
it'll-
in a history textbook.
It is, and it is actually being taught in
Yes.
certain states.
So-
You're
New
way
York?
behind there, bud.
Yeah, it's actually being legitimately taught that America wasn't founded in 1776.
They're
certain- in
they're
certain, like,
utilizing
counties
that
within states.
the fact to base
To base their
America's
claims
founding
on
on
America.
slavery
Exactly.
and to justify their saying that America is not worthy of excellence and is just a garbage place.
Jesus Christ! What the actual hell is happening?
Yeah, I'm surprised you haven't heard of that one. Yeah.
I mean,
it's-
I'm not
it's-
surprised Slapshot hasn't heard of anything.
I'll be honest. I really I don't consume much news. I usually
It's
get my
not
news. from you
news.
guys.
This is literally like historical.
Okay, but like
I just pictured the Alex Jones like, okay, guys, I gotta be really honest. I'm a little retarded.
honestly,
Foil caps on.
probably me sometimes. I'll fully admit it.
I put my tin
I'm
foil
very
on and
negligent
turned
to
the
some of this
microwave
stuff.
Oh no.
Oh no.
How are you supposed how are you supposed to inform other people if you are not informed yourself? Our job here is to inform other people and get other people thinking objectively.
Oh, I know.
You're fired.
You have to know.
No, but I'm
Censored.
saying like if you don't have context because
I'm
you know
following-
how
I'm
much
following-
context I have to give you for stuff.
Yeah, I know.
So if you don't have context or you say something and then someone else comes back like, are you going to use my context or are you going to do more research and find your own context or maybe even find your own ideas?
Yeah, and that's the whole point of the whole. That is literally the point of the podcast, in its entirety.
This
It's-
is the constructive criticism we were talking about.
Oh, well, I'm saying no. The whole point of the podcast in its entirety is to get other people to understand what we went through to get to where we are. I mean, and it's really based. It try to encourage them to do the same thing. To
Go down
do your
their
own
own path,
research.
yeah.
Yeah, to go down their own path. Learn how to do their own research. Learn how to prepare themselves. Learn how to do that stuff.
Yes, and I am doing in your response to you. I am doing that more now to benefit us and as a group to help grow the podcast and be insightful whenever we're having conversations.
You better be, otherwise
I
we'll
am.
find out.
Like when it comes to like previous events that have already happened, like I missed the boat on some.
Well, that's the whole reason any of this even happens, or the whole reason that we can even have conversations about it is because we have things to look back on in the past that, nothing is new. I'll tell you right now, nothing is new. Everyone, if you've had an idea, someone else probably already had it.
Yeah, I can really speak to this. Yeah.
So it comes down to, first of all, how can you better those ideas, and another thing is how can we learn from those ideas that failed for a reason. That is the grandeur of utilizing history as basically your your moral, not moral compass, but a compass of sorts.
It's a
It's
guide,
really
because you can look and see what's worked and what
Yeah.
hasn't worked, and if you're like, oh well, I'm still convinced that the X
This
thing
is
can
how
work,
you
where did
build
they
a
fail at?
foundation.
Yeah, it's a guide. Like you don't have to go through something for the first. I mean, there is that every once in a while something like that does happen where you literally are the first person to do something, but that's like 1 in a billion, you know.
Right, and maybe I mean a bunch of other people already had it, but no one ever did anything about it, and you're the first one of note to utilize something like that. Like if no one had said anything that Socrates or Aristotle said about like stuff about Stoicism and stuff like that. I mean, we all, I would say a lot of us, to get into a little bit of philosophy, a lot of us probably practice a lot of stoic ideas without even knowing that you are.
I love that book so much. Like, I literally was making the old lady listen to it on the way here.
Yeah.
Stoic.
I mean, I didn't even I pulled, like, the whole, like, stoic thing. I didn't pull that from Dan Crenshaw. I pulled that from PewDiePie, of all places.
Oh
Because
boy.
PewDiePie's a stoic.
Mm-hmm.
And having a stoic mindset, which is basically, like, you can only control, like, worry
Things that are
about
in
the
your
things that
power.
you can control.
You can control it, yeah.
Yeah, that was like my thing I started to do this year, was especially after last year when everything kind of went, you know.
Yeah.
And it was so far outside of any realm of control. That's when I really started getting into that. It's like, you know, if I sat here and I did everything in my power to change this, it would have still ended the same way. You know, and it's not, and that's not. I'm not saying that's an excuse to sit back and just not do anything. It's that you don't, at least you don't get worked up over stuff that's like so far outside of your area of control.
Right, and you
Yeah, I
and
think
you
more-
focus on what you can control.
Yeah, I think more people should try to take that mind, because if you think about how like prevalent stress is in today's society, that mindset alone eliminates stress.
Yeah, for a long time,
Everyone just
Yeah.
worries about all kinds of things that they'll never be able to change. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't try to better yourself and go
That
towards
is
or find
different
ways
things.
that you can
but-
affect that.
So look,
You're right.
That's really hard to get people encouraged to do something like that, because you know it takes a lot of willpower
Self-motivation
to
and
do that.
willpower.
Yeah. So an alternative we could do is just invent cars that run on hemp, and everybody will feel great.
You don't want to patent that idea right now.
Hell yeah. Give me a piece of
Combustion
paper and I'll
engines.
write-
Yeah,
All
you
right.
got your heater, you got the
Your blaze
the
it
fans,
button.
and then you got the
Blaze
blaze
button.
button.
It's just a little Snoop Dogg picture on there.
Like, I'm a huge testament to that whole
Blazing it?
realizing. Well,
Stoicism.
yeah, well, like I used to get so pissed off at work over things that I couldn't control. And it was just because I thought about everything. Like, I literally thought about everything and, like, why.
A victim of your
I-
own thoughts.
Yeah, and, like, why I couldn't do more. And then I literally, in the past, like, I don't know, figure month or so, I have not been, like, remotely outraged, I guess the word for it.
For a long time, it got to the point where, at least in the military, there were times where I would have people that worked in my shop that just really just didn't do a whole lot, and it would get to the point where NCOs or my leaders would tell me, like, hey Miller, don't do this, have someone else do it. So I wait, like, I tell someone else to do it, and then I wait and I wait and I wait, and it doesn't get done, and it needs done. So guess what?
And it eats you.
I'm gonna do it because it needs done. But getting, I guess, bent out of shape over, just simply bent out of shape over things you can't control. Like, I'm not gonna get, if I got in a car accident, like, am I just first of all, am I gonna sit there and pout that I got in a car accident?
Just will yourself out of the car.
Am I gonna sit there and pout? Is that gonna fix the problem? Is that
Yeah.
is me complaining about it or crying about it or anything like that going to whatever? I'll say whenever I wrecked my truck the other day. Whenever I wrecked my truck the other day, I allowed myself 2 seconds of, like, emotional outburst, and that was literally me slamming my hand on my freaking on my steering wheel. I was like, because that's the second car that's been wrecked recently by me, but that one was because of snow. Regardless, I allowed myself a second of, like, frustration, and then I got to work and to fixing. I created a problem. Now I have to fix the problem. How do I fix the problem?
I literally just pictured you sitting there, hitting your steering wheel and be like, "That's enough sadness for this year."
I'm done.
That's enough emotion. You've hit your quota for the day.
Oh goodness.
All right, like what? Tagging on that whole emotion thing, like you don't want to be an emotionless person. Like that's not what any of us
No.
are
No,
advocating
absolutely not.
I
for.
feel great.
Like,
Utilizing-
like you definitely want to show emotion, but you want to channel it into a positive way.
There are times for emotion, and there are times for not having emotion.
Lack of
I
it.
think-
I agree,
I
but I'm
think-
just like I didn't want anybody to think that we're advocating for
Just
being
monotone and just throughout
yeah,
life.
I mean,
Yeah,
like us
no.
every time we're on the
desensitized to
podcast.
everything.
I think it comes down to not so much not having emotion or having it's knowing when to use it,
Yeah,
when to control or how to control it. Otherwise, you're sitting there like, and you go super.
Yeah, I
saiyan
mean, if you just
partially.
have like outbursts
Just
all the time
partially.
and you have no idea how to manage your feelings, like that's actually I think what the basis of it is. It is managing your emotions, and or
Well, I know there's a big thing about men with
Men-
that specifically.
well, because men and women handle emotions differently.
Yeah.
Our one friend brought up the men kind of put emotions into boxes or like put ideas into boxes, whereas
Yeah.
females put things on like a coat hanger. And the way that like both of them are organized, but they're organized in a different way.
men I think just bottle it up and then it's
Just
an
pop
out,
atop
it's
that
it's an
something.
outburst.
Eventually,
in
it
the
doesn't
middle
all
of
fit in the
nowhere.
box.
It doesn't
Yeah.
have to. No, it doesn't have to be.
No, but
Yeah,
I'm just saying,
but it
generally
is.
speaking, like that's how it goes.
Because for me,
If someone freaks out, it's probably not from that one thing, but a long
It's
list
a
of other
build-up.
things. There's that one
I
thing set them over.
compartmentalize my emotions.
I mean, I think it's I think a lot of it. Back to your point was like, I think it comes down to like it's not really. I don't want to say it's like not super culturally acceptable for men to really just be super emotional about stuff. 'Cause,
No,
like
it's
they
not.
see that and it's like, oh yeah, you're weak.
Yeah.
Like as a whole, as like an instant
A
whole
very
write
general.
off. Like, it's a general thing. Yeah.
Mhm.
I would say that I'm very emotional, in the sense that I, like. I
What
mean,
are you feeling right now?
You feeling sad? Wanna talk about it?
Hot seat.
no, but I'm just saying.
feel
With my emotions, I compartmentalize them. So if the emotion that I'm feeling right now is not useful to whatever I'm doing, I'm going to put it away for
Just save it
for later,
And
for
that's
whatever it
called
is.
bottling up.
No, because then you utilize your outlets in order to expend those emotions in a way that is, again, positive or useful to you, rather than
Or legal.
slamming your fist on the ground and like crying for 15 minutes. I mean, that may be your release, whatever it is.
I was gonna say that just depends on the individual on what it is.
But my thing is, just try to use whatever I'm feeling to be constructive rather than destructive.
I mean, I'd say that across the board, that's pretty good advice.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Like I know anymore. Like if I feel like that coming on at work or whatever, I kind of like try not to just keep it to myself, and then I just use that, I guess, that anger as a drive to not just work harder and faster and just nonstop.
Before I was promoted, I didn't have a whole understanding of the operation. I kind of only understood my general area, and being in the incompatibles area where everything is heavy as hell, and me being smaller frame, I have to at times squat packages that weigh as much as me and as tall as me, and it's a pain in the actual ass. And
Literally.
being so understaffed, we, especially during the peak season, November, December, it was oftentimes frustrating because we were understaffed, but you just had to tough through it. And there was a manager of mine that said, remember, they're only boxes. And whenever we would have a hard day, I would just think about that. I'm just like, you know what? It's only a box. It's not going to kill me. Just a box.
Minecraft's only boxes.
It just made my head explode.
Oh man.
But there's a lot of that. There's just a lot of. For a long time, I was worried all the time about work, especially in the army. And honestly, I tried very, very, very hard to stop caring about it. But in the situation that you're in the army, where you basically live the army, especially whenever you're active duty, like I don't go home. I go back to my room on the same post that I drove 5 minutes away to get to work, and then I go to work I go home. I'm home for I get 4 hours to myself before I should really start thinking about going to sleep, because then I have to wake up at 4 in the morning to go freaking do PT. There was never a time where I was just I am currently not an employee. No. I mean, they burn it into your head whenever you're going through basic that you're a soldier all the time. And
Yeah,
to the point where we would make jokes, on the weekends, because we could still be called in on the weekend for whatever reason, but me and my friends would make jokes where we would talk about the Army or whatever on the weekend and be like, hey, I ain't in the Army. It's the weekend. Or they
ended Friday. Off.
Or they would go out, if they went out, they would completely just make up, every weekend they would come up with a new persona. So whenever they went to the bar, they would be someone, Joe Schmo from Missouri, or they would be so-and-so from here.
Did people
Oh
buy
my
into
God,
it?
it's Jason Bourne.
Oh my God. I knew a lot of females that did that.
It's
She was like, oh yeah, I'm a accountant here at whatever thing. Every weekend, fake name,
Something different.
it was crazy.
I wonder why they're doing this.
Gotta have an alter ego.
What if you have an alter ego?
Then your alter ego eventually develop its own alter ego.
Oh no.
Then you get schizophrenia. That's a slippery
Then
slope,
you start
boys.
seeing people.
You ever seen that movie Split yet? That happens.
Deadpool?
Oh man. Yeah, it's definitely interesting how that changes stuff, I guess. Being in that situation. That is perspective I lack.
And I think so. I mean, some of the most useful tools in life. One of them is, I think, perspective.
Absolutely.
Is being able to just taking in as much as you can in life, experiencing as much as you can. So then I am far more wise than I was before I went in the Army. Not just because I got older and I experienced a little bit more life, but because I was basically I've said before, I think I lived a full life in the 4 years that I lived in the Army, in terms of emotional ups and downs, in terms of meeting different people from all across, everywhere. I've met people from basically everywhere in the United States, and also people from different countries and stuff like that who had completely different upbringings from me and completely different interests. Or maybe someone that I met that's from a different country, we have the exact same interests. My one buddy who was born in Iraq. We became friends. I learned all the stuff about him coming from Iraq and stuff like that because I walked down to the smoke pit with my vape, and I vaped, and he was like, "Oh, you vape? You must drive a Subaru." And I was like, "Yeah, I do." And he was like, and he was smoking a cigarette, and he was like, "Really? Me too." So
I like this one.
That's literally how we became
how it
friends, because
started.
he had an STI and I had a BRZ, and that's
Groupies.
yeah.
The soupies.
The soupies.
Oh, God.
And then eventually we had another guy join in, and to the point where I was in a unit before I had never been in a unit where I had serious, super good friends that I was hanging out. I mean, there were periods of time where I had super good friends, but the entire time I was in Qatar, I had me and the two other guys. We were the Three Musketeers. Our unit knew that we were the Three Musketeers. We spent every waking hour of every single day with each other, besides sleeping.
Can't do
Glad
that.
you
No,
elaborated
nobody
on
can
that.
do
you,
it.
made
No,
sure
I
to-
just want to make sure the distinction. But I've probably spent about as much in-person time with them as close to what I've spent with my friends here, just by sheer volume of time.
Well-
That's 8 months of almost 24 hours a day.
That's a lot, yeah.
So, and that's why I consider them my closest friends that I had the opportunity to meet in the Army.
Yeah, when I moved away, I kind of had some of that stuff happen too, because I was gone for a couple of years, and I can relate. So it's because some of those people that I met then, I still talk to. Just talked to
Yep.
talked to some the other day and met some crazy connections, you know. And that's what it all comes down to, is just the connections.
And you can also, I mean, life isn't the only place you can gain perspective. There are cheat codes to gaining perspective, and that is reading books.
Oh, I haven't figured that out yet.
Books are a cheat code to perspective, because you're when a lot of, like, whether it be fiction or nonfiction, you're reading from someone else's perspective. So reading a book from literally someone explaining their what they see in front of their face, they're explaining it to you word for word what they think.
Well, you don't have to I mean, instead of you spending the time to figure it out, they figure it out for you.
Yeah.
For lack of better words, I mean, it's not 100% translation, but they're doing 80% of it.
And that's super useful. I mean, for me at least, I've gained a lot of perspective from reading books. I would say.
Like I love to read too, just as much as you do. Like I like
Fortitude.
I like. Well, yeah, Fortitude is.
Fortitude's a good book. It's not the only book that I've read.
No, but I like biographies like that. Tell tales of people's lives. Like that is honestly where I really, I guess.
Or even
shine.
listening, even listening to like Jocko's podcast. He talks a lot about, or he'll read like old like Roman general era books about these generals who are talking about the exact same thing that Jocko talks about, like with extreme ownership and stuff. They don't call it extreme ownership, but it's first of all, there's like nothing new, and they're talking about the same concepts, and you can learn it from a perspective of a general fighting like hand-to-hand wars, and now you're applying that to your business life.
I mean, it's just like we said earlier, that nothing's really new, because at its core, all that stuff's exactly the same, and it's just a matter of how you really apply it to reality.
Everything's just modified.
That's what I mean. It's like it's all the same base structure underneath there, and then
How you apply it to your life.
exactly. That's exactly what I'm getting at. I mean, for me, like I see successfully opening a business and going through and succeeding at that and getting the goals that you want. I like between that and being an army that conquers an entire nation. Of course I see the literal differences, but the metaphorical differences between those two, I don't see very many.
No.
Because to me they're very, very close.
You can apply the exact same concepts, and you can apply those concepts to most things you do in life.
That's what I'm getting at. Yeah. There's your valuable lesson for today, right?
Gotta learn something new every day.
Read about Washington at Valley Forge. See the crap those guys went through.
Yeah, 1776 is a good book.
Get a nice.
Get a reading list going.
Yeah.
The Valiant Few reading list.
Here's the book we recommend for you to read today.
We'll do book review.
Honestly, all right,
You could do book reviews, yeah.
kind of change it up a little bit. If there was a war that you could fight in, any time frame, any, I guess, campaign or any side, what war would you fight in?
World War III.
We're already going.
Oh,
to
you might
fight
get
that
your
one.
wish there.
You might get your wish there, champ.
Oh no.
World War II.
World War II. What European campaign?
Yeah, European.
Easy.
I also am in that same book. I probably want to get Jagbird, which virtually was the Green Berets of that era.
Would you like to be a SOG?
That song didn't exist in World War II.
No, I mean, no, I know, but I mean, like, would you like to?
SOG in Vietnam.
Yeah, would you like to be a SOG?
That sounds like extra sketch.
It's like, sorry, did you just blow that whole mountain apart? Yeah, you bet we did. We cut the whole top right off.
What about you, Zombie?
Personally, probably the Revolution. I think so.
Patriotic, are we?
I don't
Is there
know.
a reason why?
I just feel like it was one of the most impactful ones, and I feel like if I was to want to be in a war, I don't know. I just
Yeah,
feel like
true.
That's the fight
That's
for
a-
literal
that's a-
freedom.
That's a good. I mean, because World War II, I think,
It was easy.
was not.
It was. We also
as
fought
important.
guerrilla warfare rather than just the lines. So
I mean,
you,
there were
you had to,
lines.
there were lines, but I
Yes.
mean, yeah.
How about the Civil War with a Whitworth?
I'd be the one actually hiding behind a
Civil
tree,
War
not
would
being shot.
definitely be the least.
No, with a Whitworth.
Oh, okay.
I got a hexagonal bullet. I can hit you from 2 miles away when you can't even see me.
You just want to make sure you don't get bayoneted, because
That's why I use the sniper rifle, so you're super far away.
Keep the distance.
am I allowed to bring a weapon with me?
No.
No,
There's a book
no,
about
you have
there.
to
I can't remember what book
Stay
it
in the
is.
times.
There's a
Check it.
book about a guy going back in time with an AK-47 to the Civil War.
Oh
Oh.
boy.
I
Like, just
can't.
mow
If you
down
just look it up,
Yeah.
it's a book.
That is a little unfair.
What type of magic is this?
All
This
right,
is
Slapshot, you're
powerful.
quiet over there.
repeating firearm.
I want to hear this.
I've been really, really dwelling on this one, and I think I would have to be a personal bodyguard in the 300 army under the rule
Leonidas.
of King Leonidas. That's right.
Wow, that's really interesting. Like, is there
Oh,
Why?
something that
For the
drove you to
glory.
this?
To die. Like
To
a cat.
die.
Can we can go back that far? Because if that's the case, then I would
I
be
said
one.
any time frame.
Anytime.
So.
Oh, I'd be one of the escorts of Mansa Musa, or Musa one of Mali.
Okay.
He had so much money when he was going around that he deflated the value of gold because he
Oh,
was
that's right, that guy.
he literally
He owned like 90% of the world's gold or something crazy like that.
he was as it says right now, he is currently accredited as the wealthiest individual in history. They cannot quantify how wealthy he was. So he went to
That's
Mecca.
pretty wealthy.
He went to Mecca and had brought so much gold with him, like I said, that along the way he artificially deflated the value of gold because he was spending it. And he wasn't doing it on purpose. He's like, yeah, this is gold. Here, let me buy all this shit. And deflated the value of gold because he spent so much.
Jesus Christ.
But if you're one of the guys who's like, oh, it's like, oh, what are we having for dinner tonight? It's like, I just bought this entire town. this is mine.
Yeah, I really want to know the reason why you wanted to be
Yeah.
a guard for.
Do you like
Leonidas.
swords?
Swords are fun.
Do
I
you
like
like
sword
clout?
play.
Do you like getting stabbed
Have
by
you ever
swords?
played with swords?
No.
Well, how you
You're
gonna
probably
like
gonna
sword
die
play?
pretty quick.
Okay, with proper training, you could be.
There you go,
Hey, if you want
yeah.
to be good with swords, you can't. Hey, maybe you live in Canada. Maybe
Everybody-
you can own
It
firearms.
seems like it's a nostalgic thing that everybody wants to be the knife or sword guy.
Please stop. Crossfire.
I mean, fantasy's cool.
I could knight thee. Sir Slapshot.
What an honor.
You'll be
For
knighted
context,
right
Crossfire is a very large
here. Is that a long
America sword.
It is
It's
a
a- it's just a
double-handed
sword.
sword with a Liberty Bell on.
sword? It's beautiful.
In all seriousness, the answer to why I picked
That's
that
so
war
justice.
specifically, I really don't have one.
Oh,
It
sorry.
just sounds cool.
sorry, I didn't see
Yeah,
We
pretty
did
much.
it for the glory.
Pretty much. For Sparta.
That's
That's right.
Can you imagine just like running with one of these things, like
No.
like full force towards
No,
somebody?
because then you just trip.
Shank yourself.
That thing looks a little
Sketch.
unwieldy.
The we're poking the ceiling now with the sword. I definitely like the Revolution. I think that's a very close second to World War II. World War II, I think the Revolution is more important. But World War II is a very close second in terms of importance.
Oh yeah.
Well,
Yeah, but World War II was literally Hitler.
Yeah.
I think that's what
I mean,
makes
yeah.
it so popular. Is just because it's so easy to hate him.
That's true.
You know,
because it was
it's
such
such
a-
a justifiable
Yeah.
war.
It was
But-
such a like red versus
But-
blue,
Yeah.
good versus evil
Yeah, like
conflict.
that's.
Although, I mean,
that's
to
what I'm
be
getting
fair,
at.
we
Like,
were
it
only-
makes it so justifiable to
Well,
you
look-
naturally
well, look.
want to be a part of that.
Well, look, hear me out for just a second. You know, Hitler wasn't a bad guy. He killed the leader of Nazi Germany.
You know, in the
Yeah.
end,
I don't
Oh
know.
my
I don't
God.
know if the world is okay with that kind of joke.
I mean, it's true.
It is true.
It's 100% true.
he did.
I mean, he
That
might not have
is a
though.
fact.
Yeah,
He
He
could
might have went out
Tim
in Brazil.
Kennedy is
He
on
could be
the
on South
It was
America.
It was in
Yeah.
Colombia.
Oh,
That's where he moved to.
Clidnia Dignidad.
is that in history books yet or no?
Probably.
Might want to go talk to the Hunting Hitler guys on the TV show.
Yeah,
Guess who
Tim
was one of them?
Kennedy.
Tim Kennedy. I asked him, like, did you find
Oh,
him?
taking a turn. Here we go.
Did you find him? Yeah, we found him, all right. That's
right
it, boy.
here.
That's it, boys. We got him.
We got him after 70.
That would be wild.
This
though.
whole kind of water. It's like, you found me.
Like 130 years old.
Well, like that would be wild if that
Super
if that
happy
scenario
story.
actually happened where he actually escaped. Like that would be so wild.
Just putting it out there, it is 100% possible.
I mean, didn't they found like significant proof?
There was a
Well, the
significant
skull that they had found inside the bunker was a female skull.
Yeah, it wasn't his skull.
Yeah, and it wasn't even Ava Braun's.
Yeah, the only thing they had to go off of that said that Hitler was in there was one. There was fragments from another one that had there had dental patterns that were the same. But
I
that's
mean, it's the 40s. I mean, you know.
Yeah. I don't know.
so. I mean, there's your tangent for that. Or there's your go from personal responsibility right to Hitler escaped Germany.
Do we have anything else that we want to talk about?
How long have we been on for?
We've been live for an hour and 29 minutes.
Oh, should we talk about our potential record that we're might consider?
Record.
Brought this up very lightly, yeah. Like a day or
Light.
two ago. Length,
Length.
girth.
Oh, the
Hello?
24-hour podcast.
It has to be longer than that.
Well, I don't really think
Oh,
we have the
we're shooting for a
stamina.
world record.
Is that what you want to do?
Okay, well, so
Gotta be like Mr. Beast.
Crack out some monsters.
I read about this a little bit. So the longest like standing podcast is like 3 hours and some odd change.
36 hours, isn't it?
Well,
It's more than.
well, hang on. Top 400 podcasts.
Every Jocko episode.
The longest-
3 hours.
Hang on,
They're all
the top
5 hours.
400 in the top 400 podcasts, the longest episode is like 3 hours and some odd change minutes by the same hosts. The longest actual standing podcast ever recorded is 36 hours, and every hour they rotated different hosts in to talk about something else to keep it going.
I mean, we could literally we could host an episode longer than 3 hours.
We could.
But that's not going to. I mean, like you said, Drago's podcasts are all like at least 3 hours.
Yeah.
We could literally have an entire season in like a 2-day period of just us like just rotating topics every hour. Oh my god. Season 3, one long episode.
One
Just-
episode.
Can we do it?
It's
We
the
should-
long boy episode.
So we should do that.
That'd be
Yeah.
interesting.
It would be interesting.
We should just read one whole history textbook. Just popcorn read
Front
it.
to black.
Your
Popcorn
podcast
sunshine.
just turns into an audiobook.
Hello,
Okay.
this is the podcast.
So here's something even more fitting than reading an entire history book from front to back. What am I gonna say?
I have no idea.
Read the Federalist
Oh yeah.
from front
Holy
to
hell.
back.
We could.
I mean, we've talked about doing Federalist Papers. A lot of it is and isn't relevant, and a lot of it is.
Can you please speak with some enthusiasm, sir?
I am enthusiastic. All right.
Just talk louder.
I just watched the levels go red over there.
The Federalist Papers are very.
Dry.
They're incredibly dry. They're very hard to read, and it takes
It's
a very
really-
big brain. Not even big brain, but just like sometimes you have to read over words a few times just to like figure out
Understand them.
exactly
You have to
what they're
translate
meaning.
ye old English.
What word is this?
What word do they like a lot?
Ye.
No.
Probably
That's-
some word I've never heard of before.
That's the precursor.
No, it's a
to-
word that we don't use much anymore, but it's still relevant.
Thou?
No.
Die.
The
No,
Federalist.
it's not, none of that. We're not
War.
in feudal German.
Dummies.
Shit.
Look,
We're going back to Anglo-Saxon time.
right here. Look, Cliff Notes on the Federalist Papers.
That exists.
Yep, hell yeah,
I'm
it exists.
pretty impressed, actually.
Google
I didn't
Play.
think-
Spark Notes the Federalist Papers. You want
Bunch
to
of old dudes.
Spark Note that brief overview? The document, the Federalist, will provide all reasons to support the new plan of the government described in the U.S. Constitution. Responses to the criticisms of the plan.
I mean, that's literally what it does.
That's
because
exactly what it does.
The context of the Federalist Papers are, the Constitution is yet to be ratified, and basically they're justifying the amendments and stuff that or the things that they put into the Constitution to the masses via a newspaper article.
Well, and then they responded to the criticisms.
Yeah, they responded to the criticisms imposed onto them.
You don't know what we're talking about.
But in doing
We
that,
hardly know.
gives us a very good record of what the founders' actual intent was with the things that they put in the Constitution. So whenever the federal government's talking about like the intent of the founders, like it's literally written right there.
Perspective.
They said specifically not to do what you're doing. The framers. The framers would love the new normal.
I'm sure.
No, they wouldn't.
Probably have a heart attack on the spot.
I died.
What is going on here?
slapping Cowabunga at his
patches
on.
You bring back George Washington. He's like, this is so unbearable.
This isn't poggers.
This is not poggers.
This is not Pog.
Abraham Lincoln just going,
Pikachu meme phase.
oh god.
Oh, Lord. That's
What
one thing I'm not
what
up
do
in, the whole meme thing.
What do you mean, Pam? What do you mean enacting gun control doesn't stop mass shootings?
What do you mean, step bro?
Oh no.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh, that's going down the thing I don't want to talk about.
I think we're getting to that. That we're out of juice.
Are
with
we
our
out of juice?
content.
Yeah, I think we're gonna. I mean, again, this was just a thing that we were just trying to see how this type of episode works. I mean, I think it works. I think it's just
Yeah, I think it
I thought
works.
it went,
There's a lot of
I thought it went pretty
bullshitting.
well.
it's a bit. I mean, it's a bit of like a.
Forum open.
I mean, that definitely is. I'm trying to think of the word. It's kind of like it's an easier one to do than just us like having to go through like, oh, well, this is this, you know, politics.
It's very Mad Lib, so.
Yeah.
Well, it's more so like what we think rather than like giving fact like we do in the actual podcast.
It's a giant bullshit session.
That is exactly how I promoted this.
It's a have it your way kind of thing.
And like you said, whenever we first started, though, it would be extremely good live to just answer questions, and
Yeah, so I mean,
it's
we,
a very
we
good,
didn't
it's a
really
very
get
good layout for that.
Yeah,
a lot of questions today.
Well, yeah.
But regardless, this
For
is
the
a
future.
good. This is a good place
It's a
to
good layout.
interact with us as well.
Well, this is still only our second live episode, you know, so it's gonna take a bit to take off.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm not worried about it.
It'll get there when it gets there.
Eventually.
All right,
Soon
so I think with that we can go about ending it. So again, you can check us out on our Discord. You can check us out on our website, www.wevaliantfew.com. I don't even know if we need www, but sounds good.
I
There it
think
is.
I think it directs it on its own. I'm not 100% sure. Pretty sure it does.
YouTube?
Yeah, I mean,
YouTube,
listen to us on YouTube.
YouTube.wevaliantfew.com. I got that to work.
You can check us out on Instagram at wevaliantfew.
All links are on our website.
Yep.
Easy peasy. We Valiant Few in Google, even though Google's Big Brother. But
Yeah, we don't talk about that.
but but there's SEO, so you can just search We Valiant Few, pops up, see where we're at.
I'd like to thank Zombie for including himself in today's podcast.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me. It was fun.
So, in Grantham fashion, Zombie, before we end this, would you like to give some dad advice for the viewers?
Some dad advice.
Yeah, some dad advice.
Oh man. Don't eat the yellow snow.
Wow. It's very good
Learned
advice.
that one the hard way
It's
once.
good advice.
No, you did
When I
not.
was younger.
No, you did not.
Oh, no.
All right.
Oh no!
Wow.
So with that, I think we're gonna end her up.
Thanks for checking in.
Stay vigilant.
Eat.